welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. Back. Happy Sunday. TGIAS, I guess. 29th of June. So that's it for the month of June. Half of this 2025 is down the tubes. I hope you've enjoyed the ride so far. I suppose if the past 6 months are anything of what the next 3.5 years are going to look like, it's going to be a bumpy ride. I don't know whether, I don't think we can necessarily call it summer doldrums yet. I think actually, I think the Europeans actually, they don't even let their kids out of school until July 1st. Poor kids. But we should be transitioning into this sort of summer silly season. I suppose that'll probably bode well for the crypto kids. You can see that whole market is really basing out. And of course, the public has no interest in crypto at all right now. So probably a good time for a bottom to come in. Don't know whether there's a heck of a lot I can add to the equation here this week with regard to crypto. I don't know whether you're aware or not, but you watching on this YouTube channel, but students of mine, the primary reason why I got involved in crypto a decade ago was because we were in the middle of a commodity-friendly cycle and a lack of confidence in paper assets, the system, the hegemony, all that kind of crap. Man, I think crypto in its purest form did its job admirably. Anybody who got into Bitcoin there in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, really 13, any time in there, especially, well, in Bitcoin in particular. I think it acted as the hedge as it was supposed to. And all of those people are sitting comfortable right now. My personal observations, for whatever it's worth, I think crypto itself, the story itself, has evolved dramatically over the past few years. And unfortunately, we're now in a phase, in a state, if you will, where it's very difficult to actually discern value for these cryptos. And in fact, I was even posting, we have a fun little shitcoin room, TRI, called the Little Old Lady Room. I was posting in there specifically this morning. In fact, actually, I'll even just read it to you, just so you don't feel like you're being fed a song and a dance. I mean, this is what I tell everybody day in, day out. Where is that room? I said specifically, fundamentally, 99% of these things are by definition worthless. And I don't mean to be rude, but basically the cheerleader of this current altcoin, shitcoin marketplace is the ultimate definition of worthless. I don't remember what screen I have this on. Oh, yeah, over here. I don't know whether, oh yeah, crypto, here we go. Geez. Be careful if you're a platinum bull. There are a lot of people talking about going and buying platinum now. That's asking for trouble. Anyway, back to our conversation. Sorry about that. The cheerleader of this entire crypto shitcoin cycle, orange toupees, now turned white toupees. Taco. That's a great name for him. That probably just pisses him off to no end. My hunch is that the altcoin market, your crypto summer, whatever the hell you want to call it, shitcoin market, it probably turns higher when this thing turns back up. I think it's probably a pretty good proxy for the altcoin space right now. Um, so as I said there a second ago, and by definition, this thing is absolutely worthless. You are playing the market on a momentum basis. It would actually be really interesting to do a bottom up fundamental analysis on this thing and actually see if what actually this thing's worth. But my hunch is it's worthless. I wouldn't be surprised too if the rally that we see over the coming few months into this 4-year cycle crypto peak, be curious to see whether we can actually recapture these highs or not. I would imagine a lot of people who bought this coin, you always hear me talk about trap bulls, all those poor suckers that came in and bought this thing right into that stupid dinner. And even the food sucked too. What a perfect analogy of the shit world we're living in right now. No value, no quality. Everything's a fucking scam. Well, get used to it. Welcome to 21st century capitalism. In fact, I'm hearing a lot of talk, and it's a little scary, but I'm actually hearing a lot of talk, especially out of like communist countries like Canada. I'm hearing a lot of people actually with a completely straight faced calling this now the post-capitalism era. Oh boy, that's scary. Might make our lives as capitalists a bit tricky here. We'll see how this goes. So anyway, if you're going to use a proxy on the shitcoin space, I think you probably want to use this thing. And it's shit. It's garbage. It is absolutely worthless. But at the same time, too, are there people who are going to make fortunes off of these rallies that the public gets suckered into? Yeah, well, they will. If you want to be a part of that game, okay. Great part about what I do is I just teach you the rules. I don't really care what you buy or sell. That's your decision. And I will never tell you what to buy or sell. I'll tell you what I'm buying and selling. And one name I bought recently, one of the site members is like, you do realize that thing's dead, don't you, Brian? Oops. So I'm never going to tout myself as Mr. Smarty Pants, but I've played this game so bloody long that I know the rules of the game. And that's really half the reason why any of you are listening to me is just simply I know the rules. If you follow the rules, it's actually pretty hard to lose money in this game, but very few people follow the rules. So the question is, can you follow the rules? Well, it's entirely up to you. Ironically enough, from a follow the rules perspective, of course, and I've been driving this home with you guys for a while now. I have this funny acronym that I've put together, LICS, which basically summarizes my you should have 3 unrelated reasons to take a trade. So we should always have location as a reason. And anytime we are at or below reload zones, I consider that acceptable trade location. So I think we can give a check to location. Indicators, and ideally here, if I'm buying, I'd like to see that the market's oversold. So we look down at our indicators, and sure enough, this indicator at the bottom of the screen here, I built this years and years and years ago as a way to help me see overbought and oversold markets. And when this yellow line gets below minus 80 here, that officially says that this thing's oversold. And you can see, back there a few months ago, it got oversold, and sure enough, there was a big pop. And if you wanted to make money, well, there was the opportunity. So here we are again. We are oversold, and of course, you'd like to see momentum divergences, i.e., price itself is making lower lows, and everybody looks at the price and goes, "Oh, it's going down. I'm losing money. This thing sucks." But you look down at your indicators and you say, "Well, wait a minute. The indicators are not making lower lows." So you can see this thing was making lower lows, and we're making higher lows. So there's some sort of disconnect going on here with the price momentum indicators and price itself. So I think we can give a check mark to indicators. Do we have confirmation? And what I mean by confirmation is you'd like to start seeing actual structure in the indicators themselves. W's are bullish, M's are bearish. It's kind of a sloppy W, but it is a W nonetheless. We also like to watch RSI, very popular price momentum oscillator. I don't really have W's forming here just yet. In fact, my rule with regard to RSI is the first, in this case, W, the first W that will stop the bear slide. So the fact that we actually haven't W'd yet, we haven't put in that first W yet, means that actually the bears are still in control here. We have a sloppy one in MACD. It is there. I'm not going to quibble about it, but I don't really like W's. And the way that I used to teach students is, and you could argue that actually there was a really cute little, that's a pretty well-defined W. I love that. But just ask yourself, if you were in grade 3 English and you went up to the chalkboard and French or any language that has a W in it, and your grade 3 English teacher told you to write a W on the chalkboard, and this is what you wrote on the chalkboard, what would that grade 3 teacher give you as a grade? Versus something like, well, teacher, that's what a good W looks like. Hopefully you can see the difference. So I call this more symmetrical, where the left side and the right side are kind of the same, whereas this is very unsymmetrical. So anyway, we want our divergences to look more like this and less like this. And if they do look like this in some indicators, you'll actually find in other indicators like our beloved RSI, there just is no W, right? We have to get a move through that level there to get a W. So I'm going to say that we have location. We have indicators flashing oversold conditions. We do have divergence building. You can even see it in Willie, and like I said, in MACD. But what I'd really like to see is some solid structure. So I'm not going to say that we have confirmation yet. So I think we're still at the LI and we're waiting on C right now, if you're like one of those market timer kind of people. Although that probably looks like a total mess and you can't read any of that, but hopefully you got some value out of that. So as I said there to start off the conversation, I think that this cycle is all about these meme coins, which unfortunately means that there really isn't a heck of a lot of value in this space right now. I fully expect that these things will pump. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's something like the Fed acquiesces and lowers interest rates because Donnie's such an asshole. And we go into some sort of crazy blow off top orgy, hyperinflation peak. That wouldn't surprise me. Who knows? Problem in this stupid game is you can't really predict what's going to happen in the future. You can get a pretty good idea of the what, but we very rarely ever know the why. So, as a technician, this is probably a pretty good example. I mean, we know that these 4-year cycle pivots, if we study our beloved Bitcoin, we know that market loves to pivot through this 1.382 on the fib time cycles. And then it likes to bottom in the 1.618 to 1.786 cycles. And, looking at last cycle, there is the 1.382, pretty damn close. There is the 1.618, right, pretty damn close. I can go back to the previous cycle. I mean, ironically enough, this stuff is so cliche, it's ridiculous. There's the 1.382 cycle. There's the 1.618 to 1786 cycle. And hell, we can even do the other one as well, but you get the idea. So we know the what, and I would argue, based on all this potential legislation that they're going to try and ram down our throats down in the States, it's interesting how Donnie, of course, wants USA to be #1 in crypto. What I would warn you about is my hunch here is heading into this fall. You're going to be hearing this out the ass, and it's going to be 24/7. It's going to be you have to be in a crypto, you have to be invested, you have to be long. This is the future. And it's just one big ass fucking trap that's being laid here. I'd also say, too, that once we do actually get into 2026, keep in mind that we have the US congressional elections in November of 26. So my hunch here is that this is Donnie's last sort of free window. And of course, that's half the reason why he wants to jam through this big, beautiful bill nonsense. And ironically enough, if he jams it through, I think he's pretty much guaranteeing that he will lose the upcoming congressional election because there's a whole bunch of cuts to things like Medicaid and Medicare. And, the Democrats are just going to, ram through that. This tax break was nothing more than just a big, for the rich to pile on, but the poor and the middle class and stuff, they're just sad. You actually see in my country people on social media literally saying this is the end of the middle class. It's literally disappearing. You're either going to be ultra rich or you're going to be a peasant like everybody else. You will own nothing and you will be happy. And if you're not happy, there's your concentration camp cell, and you will put a smile on your face or we will work you to death. I suppose that's the Chinese model. So my hunch here is this is Donnie's last hurrah. Because once we get into 2026, I think he's pissed off enough of the American electorate that the congressional election is going to go violently against him. And that, of course, will be the fall of 2026. And how ironic as we head into that election and the socialists, the Democrats, the people that actually hate crypto and all that kind of crap, the bankster elites who basically own the Democrats, they're going to come storming into power. And I wouldn't be surprised if crypto is on its knees and reeling through that initial, we've taken back power from orange toupees, and now we're going to legislate or litigate. Anyway, crypto into the ground. Anyway, that's my crazy forecast. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. What I would just simply say, and of course, you can't write better fiction than reality. Frankly speaking, I'm surprised Donnie's still alive. There were other politicians in US history that ended up pissing off just everybody and their brother in power, and they ended up getting knocked off in Dallas. I think we all know who I'm talking about. So I mean, Donnie's pissed a hell of a lot of people off, but anyway, he's still alive. Anyway, having said that, this is kind of the make hay while the sun's shining kind of environment. I believe we got about 4 or 5 months, maybe like about 16 weeks left in this cycle, 16 bars, you can see that. And once we get to this 1.382 window event here, me personally, I'm going to be like, all right, I've got to walk away from the crypto space. Sucks, but just is what it is. I think I've told all of you that my plan here, for whatever it's worth, I do have a few Bitcoins that people have generously given me over the years. And the great part about it, of course, for the tax man is that basically the cost basis on those is basically zero. So tax man's going to do very, very well when I end up liquidating them. But my plan there is that those coins that were basically given to me by all of you good people, they're basically for Liam, and really the idea is to buy Liam a house so he doesn't have to live in an institution for the rest of his life. And my plan was I was going to sell those if we got to the point where the price was high enough that I could go buy him a house after paying the communists all their fucking blood tax. So that's the motivation for me to actually liquidate my Bitcoins. not necessarily well, we're coming to the end of this cycle, so I'm going to liquidate. Coming into the end of the cycle, so I'm going to liquidate. That's going to be everything that I do with TRI. And I run a small crypto portfolio, even though TRI find it almost impossible to track it. So I will be liquidating that. And any other crypto proxies that I happen to be running for TRI into this fall window. And interestingly enough, as I've been telling the community recently, I think I even told people on these Broiler Chicken shows, this public show, I have actually been buying. As I sort of cheekily said there earlier, one of the site members mentioned, "Oh, Brian, you do realize that that name that you just bought, actually, there's absolutely no activity on the network whatsoever, and there hasn't been for the past year or two." What I find fascinating is, you never know how these silly stories are going to play out. I'm the type of guy, I just want to buy against the bottom end range, sell against the top end of the range. When the public is super pessimistic, I want to be in there buying. When the public is stupid, idiotic, FOMO, optimistic, I want to be in there selling. And that's all I do is I just simply, ironically enough, I just play against the public. Whatever the public's doing, odds are I'm probably doing the exact opposite. So the fact that the space is actually as negative as it is right now actually leads me to believe that, kind of like what I showed you with this doofus, I actually think we're into buying windows here. I will caution all of you, though, we're supposed to be rational investors. And you heard what I said about the fundamental value of orange toupees. They're worthless. He's worthless. He's just a fucking windbag. How can you tell when politicians are lying to you? I mean, this guy, man, he's got it down to an art form. It's remarkable how he's lied to everybody, especially this whole getting involved in the Israeli and Iranian war. Man, where the hell did he get the authority to step into that mess? Anyway, and if you really want a good lesson on Donald Trump, do yourself a favor and do some research into Trump University, biggest con job ever. And the irony of it all is that the bastards that are in control of my country, they basically did exactly the same thing to the entire Indian subcontinent to sucker them into coming to China. Literally, there's thousands of these Trump universities all over my country, and their degrees, and you don't even really get a degree, it's like a diploma that you get from these places, is completely worthless. So make no mistake about it. Donnie's just par for the course in this corrupt shit society. It's like no ethics, no morals whatsoever, which it makes my adventure here so odd. Like, why is it that Brian wouldn't sell his soul out and be another fucking Donnie moron and just shill to the public and not give a fuck whether you make or lose money, but end up heading down this weird road that I headed down after my wife passed? It feels as though I'm like the only person in the entire fucking world who's actually trying to do this to make a positive difference in people's lives. I don't ask for any advertising on YouTube or, shilling this or shilling that. I don't get involved in these stories. Some guy was on the site recently talking about how this project is going to guarantee the value of this coin. And I literally barked him off of the site saying, do not make those kind of statements about cryptocurrency. You're not doing these people any favors, conning them into thinking there are guarantees in this space. I'm like the only person out there doing this. Anyway, Brian just barking. So be careful, people. You need to understand what the context of this speculative market is like. And you need to understand where you're coming in on this cycle. And keep in mind, folks, that this cycle, right, you can see fall, we're heading into the worst part of the cycle here. Once this October, November window is crossed, we're heading into fall. Actually, it's weird how I updated this on my laptop, but this didn't update. And winter. And this is where, SBF basically blew himself up. Do Kwon blew himself up. BitConnect. Do we hear about BitConnect anymore? Where did that clown go? Hell, in fact, actually, well, not exactly. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Interesting how this was the last time Donnie was president. They rammed it right up into the end of that summer. And there's your fall and winter. This is when I first got involved in this space. I wonder if anybody even remembers what was the scandal that basically dominated the entire space through this fall and winter. And it was hilarious is there was even a rage quit at Bitcoin right down here at the bottom in the middle of the winter. So I don't know whether you all can appreciate what's very realistically going to happen to us in the not too distant future. So notice the bottom as we transition from fall into winter. So my hunch here is that the bottom comes in here somewhere around September 2026. And I kind of like that because, like I said, there's going to be a congressional election around November 2026. And I do believe that the socialists are going to come charging back into power down in the States. Oh, boy. And we've also talked about this at length. If you, well, yeah, anyway, talk that into the ground. So I think, what I really wanted to drive home here, though, was the bottom in this cycle, like on something like Bitcoin, was $16,000 a Bitcoin. And here we are up at 100 and some odd thousand. I mean, can we get up to 300,000? I don't know. I'm feeling, and I put the tweet out today that 200 plus. Interesting. This didn't even update. Frustrating. Maybe I'll just work off of the newsletter. Drives you nuts working with these silly computers. Anyway, this is the tweet that I put out from my laptop this morning. Are you gonna load? There we go. So we're climbing the wall of worry. The problem is that, man, we've got a hell of a lot of resistance up in this 150 area. There's the cycle pivot. We do have a trend line off of the top. I think that's like an old trend channel. We've got this current channel drawn off of this low and that low and projected off of that high, which was confirmed here. So I think this is a perfectly valid price channel. And you can see how we've been waffling along the middle of the channel here for quite some time here just recently. I like the idea of us popping up top here into the fall. I don't know whether we can get above things like this Foggenbaum and 877 up top in the parking garage. There's two 1.618s floating out here. It feels as though now this is going to turn into some pretty stiff resistance. If we're lucky, we get some sort of crazy blow off top that just blasts right through these, kind of this kind of event. But I'm skeptical. I think now it's like A, B, C, D takes us up to maybe 150 as your big fat round number. 1.618, I often say off of these kind of ABCDs is a no-brainer short level. And like I said, we got that 4669 floating out there and 877, and there's our good old parking garage extension levels. So I'd love to see 300,000, but I don't know. I think that that ship is kind of sailing away from us now, which kind of sucks, but oh well. It is what it is. So I doubt I'm going to be selling my Bitcoins this fall. I'll just sit on them. They're on a cold storage device, and maybe in 4 years we'll go shopping for a house for Liam then. Anyway, point of the matter here, I suppose, is we are consolidating. And if you are bullish, I still think there's another leg higher here. Let's see how crazy this gets into the fall. Do have eclipse windows coming up here. It's interesting how this eclipse window was a pivot low eclipse window. I like the idea that this eclipse window will be some sort of pivot high window. That wouldn't surprise me. Also, too, we had a really interesting transition. Saturn into Aries here. And I have noticed that the world has gotten quite a bit more stressful since that event. And also, too, we had one lady who was on the site who was very into astronomy and stuff. And she was saying that, I guess, astrology. She was saying that this is actually supposed to be a really big change window. And it's fascinating because once we went into this window here, I noticed that my life itself, a lot of big changes are happening in my life right now. Certainly didn't plan this and certainly didn't foreshadow it, but it's remarkable that this time next year, my life is going to look completely different than what it looks like right now. So it's fascinating how this was like a catalyst for change. And I'm also seeing it right across our entire society. I do find it fascinating. I was even playing a fun little commercial because I always like to sing commercials to Chris to remind him how old I am. And I was playing him a commercial from the 1980s, which is sort of like the hallmark of my life. And you play the commercial back now and you go, wow, that world doesn't even exist anymore. It's completely gone. So we are going through this. And of course, people have talked about this. And if you're a student of the market, hopefully you have your journals out. What did I learn today? How am I feeling? What did I see? Those kind of things every single day. If you're relatively new to the market, you have to understand that this is the most difficult window to get through in the entire sort of human lifetime cycle. It seems like the way the money bankster crooks run things is they wait for one full life cycle so that the last time that they did this great reset, the people that were alive and had to suffer through it, they're all long dead. And anybody who did actually live through it, they were just a very, very small child, and they'll be very, very old senior citizen now. And it's consistent. You can literally walk back all the way to the Great Fire of London, and really, you could argue that was the point, the English Civil War, where the banksters sort of officially took over society. And in one form or another, they've been fucking over the human race for the past like 500-600 years now. And every 80 years, they do this to us. So it's not, ironically enough, it's probably in my best interest. Kind of like, didn't you all find it kind of slightly coincidental that John Bollinger, right into the fear greed cycle apex, the end of that fear cycle, officially announced his retirement and he wouldn't be commenting to the public anymore about the market, right into that damn cycle pivot. And that was exactly what I was supposed to do. But no, Brian's a pussy and wouldn't sort of stand up and say, look, this is what I have to do. And I just sort of said, fine, I'll keep doing this or whatever. And this past 4 or 5 years has been basically a waste of time in my eyes. But anyway, for those people, I mean, where's Chack Pack these days? Holy crap. I mean, you don't hear about any of those people anymore. Where's that Barstool guy? Do you think he's still playing the market? So I don't know why I keep doing this. But anyway, my days probably are coming to an end here soon, doing these social media things for you guys. But the point that I would just make is what I would like to see out of all of you is an acknowledgement where we are on these long-term cycles, and just understand you don't want to come in and get all circle jerk orgy-ish into this. There's no reason why you can't make money doing this, but for God's sakes, when you start hearing the public going stupid uber bullish about this space and you have to be long and blah 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 blah, you're literally, you've got to, at the very least, just get yourself into a risk-free position. I mean, the reason why, I mean, you can see I still got a bunch of hair on the top of my head, and it's all real. This isn't a toupee, and there's not too much gray, which is quite surprising. I am technically over the hill. But the reason why, I think, is because I try to live at least stressful life as possible. And trust me, I've got plenty of personal life stress. Wife decided to do what she decided to do, and my son's life is a bit of a challenge. I will say, though, it was a lot of fun yesterday, or I guess it's 2 days ago. We went and had popcorn chicken at KFC, and he was just over the top happy. And everybody in the restaurant knew how happy Liam was about getting his popcorn chicken. And it put a big smile on a lot of people's faces. So in an interesting sort of way, special needs does have some bright spots to it. Puts a smile on your face, makes your heart feel good. Because if it's one thing about Liam, is he is 100% genuine, pretty much kind of like me. There's no bullshitting with Liam. He doesn't understand the concept of lying and deceit and stuff like that. Doesn't mean anything to him. So anyway, hopefully the apple didn't fall far from the tree there. So, I just really, especially if you're new to this space, the one favor that I can do for all of you is just try and put what the 1% and what these, and the sad part about it is it'll even be the experts, like in the level 1 education program that I wrote like 10 years ago, which was an anecdote on the .com boom. A guy I used to follow religiously, Louis Rukeyser. He used to have a panel of Wall Street experts on his show on a weekly basis, and into the .com boom, 11 out of 12 of his analysts were all uber insanely bullish right into the peak of 2000. So even the quote unquote experts will get this completely wrong. It's fascinating to watch. People that have like hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. There's one guy in particular, huge following, and was just so politically correct and just said all the right things and said all of the fancy financial planning, and I'm going to use the lingo that makes me seem really smart. He was telling you to go fucking all in on Ethereum into that last cycle peak. And you all know who I'm talking about. And yet it was 120% wrong. And yet the guy still has a $1 billion business franchise. Look how smart I am. I know financial markets, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what to tell you people. If anything, what this does is it reminds me of when I was at my old prop firm. And actually, I'm really excited because most of the cohort that I work with on a daily basis in TRI's day trading room, they're all funded with my old prop firm now. And ironically enough, because I'm so lazy and I won't go and actually take real trades, I'm the only one still muddling through their combine thing to be legit again in their eyes. Actually, the account's doing pretty well. I'm supposed to make $3,000 to be considered legit, and the account's now at plus 2250 or so. So I'm basically within a trade or two of being legit in their eyes again. But it's great to see that the entire room that I work with at TRI, my OGs in my day trader room, they're all, I don't know whether they're fully funded or whether they're sort of like half stage funded or something like that with my old prop firm. But I specifically remember, and I think that I'll probably get more serious with my old prop firm when I start putting all this stuff that I've done over the past 14 years away, and I get back to seriously managing money in the market again. It's been an interesting experience, I'll tell you that much. I probably should make for a good chapter or two in the book. Anyway, rant, blah, blah, blah. So, all I can say to you is I do believe that we are coming into some sort of cycle peak over the next 4 or 5 months. I do think that prices are going to move higher. I do think that this particular go round in the crypto space, since we are now on the greed part of the cycle, this has everything to do with paper assets now outperforming hard assets. So, for instance, recently I actually posted a write-up of the Russell 2000, which is basically the biggest 2000 stocks down in the States, aka paper assets. This happens to be a chart of the Dow futures. I think that we are well on our way to Dow 50,000 here. We are now into, I'm not going to name names, Wash. I don't think it's in my best interest to pick fights and be on, especially with these AIs and shit. That's half the reason why I like to call orange toupees, and orange toupees Donnies and stuff like that. You should all know who I'm referring to, but I won't, and like bank presidents, I like to call him Joey Diamond. You get the idea. I mean, I don't like to make direct references, and especially with this AI stuff, it's probably best that you're not on record specifically saying Donald Trump's an asshole. But I think there's plenty of people in the world that share that sentiment. And don't get me wrong, I don't like Donnie any better than I like Skeletor, who is half dead in the White House. He's no better. How can you tell when a politician's lying to you? And actually, it was interesting. I was listening to a guy on YouTube the other day who comments on the Ukraine war. His name's Danny or Dennis or something like that. And he was actually saying that because he lives off of his channel, so he gets demonetized whenever he makes a derogatory statement about anybody in the non-public life. But he was saying that it turns out with YouTube, and I think it's more to do with the fact that if you shit on Donald Trump, YouTube, being controlled by the cabal, actually is perfectly fine with that, and they won't demonetize you if you say Donnie's an asshole. But if you say something like Jerome Powell's an asshole, well, now you're going to get demonetized. So it just shows you how politically corrupt this world is. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so back to my conversation here. And if anything, this makes perfect sense, because I think stock prices, we are in the greed cycle. I think stock prices themselves will actually work their way higher into 2035. I don't think that we're going to get to 50,000 here just this particular cycle. I wouldn't be surprised if we stall up here around maybe 45,000 or so. You can see the parking garage of the previous trading range up here. You can see a 1.272 off of that previous range. You can see a 877 off of this particular consolidation range. You can see a 2.618 and basically an AB equals CD. I like the idea that the market's probably going to want to work its way up into this, let's call it 46,000 change area, heading into the fall here. Can we reach all the way up top here into this fall? I don't know. That's a tough one. That's an awfully big move. But actually, what I think's going to happen here is I think this is going to be like a 1987 scenario where this thing is going to have its blow off top this fall. And of course, if we follow things like the January barometer, we know that something's coming down the pike here. It looks like we're heading full on into our sort of final blow off top phase of this rally, which should look very Elliott wave-ish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of idea. But you can clearly see something. They're expecting something this fall to really rock the market. At least they did back last January. It's interesting too how this rallies right back up, but then gets whacked again. The beginning of the new year. I don't know what they're expecting, but you can clearly see they revised they were expecting a revision of the whole market higher. And then we probably have to go into some sort of consolidation phase. And, there's a cute little lady out of China. I don't think she's in China. It's interesting. She sort of speaks kind of broken English, but when you listen to her talk in Chinese, she's just so she's like completely fluent in Chinese. Well, it goes without saying. But anyway, point being that she's been barking a lot lately about how this electric car manufacturer, battery-powered car manufacturer in China is almost exactly the same story as this, what the hell was it called? China Gardens, something Gardens. Their complete housing fiasco, disaster, nonsense. It's almost something Country Garden. I think that's it. Country Garden. Anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if what this shock is this fall is actually the Chinese government dissolves into some sort of civil war. You can already see Winnie the Pooh's lost a lot of his power base. And it was interesting. There's a guy who's a sort of a Winnie the Pooh fan here in Canada who comes on the site. And then when I started questioning him, it kind of looks like Winnie's in a bit of trouble. All of a sudden, oh, and he's gone. He disappeared. And frankly speaking, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a bunch of CCP and NSA and CIA and European secret police, probably even Canadian secret police for that matter, all around TRI. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. And of course, you say one wrong thing and boom, you're off to the concentration camp you go. Thankfully, I was a financial planner, full service broker. I was a fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute. I mean, I've played this bureaucratic, kind of paper pushing world, and I know how these regulators think and act. So while I'll make fun of individuals, I will never tout an individual story because that's how they get you. And I will never say there are guarantees. There's nothing guaranteed in venture cap because that's how they get you. And I will make no false promises about any performance on the site because that's how they get you. So, as I started off this conversation with you today, if you want to learn the rules of how to play this game, that's what Brian's really good at. I know the rules backwards. I've done every fucking job in this business. And now I can actually add to my resume. I've taught people how to build and run small businesses of trading with the expectation of making a profit for now a decade. And actually, I think probably a decade. Time to move on to the next adventure. So anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised. And also too, for any of you China Ds out there, I would not be surprised if this fall, the whole China D's real estate bubble finally comes home to roost. And what's really interesting about the China D's story is exactly the same way as in the very beginning of 2008, there were lots of rumblings behind the scenes about problems in the real estate market. It's just nobody wanted to hear them. Nobody wanted to talk about it. I used to tell site people and students and everybody, when I would sit down as a financial planner in 2007 with people, it would never be a conversation with, do you own your own home? Because, of course, people that are coming for retirement planning and stuff like that, they're already in their peak earnings years and they're just figuring out how to keep as much money as they can. It would always be, oh, how many homes do you own? Which, of course, is not sustainable. And, of course, what's so tragic about this country is any child growing up, they're probably growing up in an environment where they have no hope. They don't understand, of course, that prices go up and prices go down. People here in this country just seems to have convinced themselves that prices go up and they only ever go up. They never go down. So we all know as speculators, anybody who's played in the Bitcoin space, damn well prices go up and prices go down. So these China Ds here, they are long overdue for a good old, basically a slap in the face about how prices, yes, prices do go up and prices also do go down. But we've been in this really weird environment here where the communists, for some reason, they've just decided that, well, we will never allow prices to go down. And the problem with that is that this is physics. You cannot, matter cannot be created nor destroyed. It is just there. You can't make more out of nothing. So they just keep stretching this rubber band further and further and further. And what I keep telling, you see what's happened in China with these stupid fucking ghost cities. What you don't understand is that at some point the rubber band has to step back. And if you keep prolonging it and prolonging it and prolonging it, then the snapback is just going to be that much bigger and it's going to be that much uglier and it's going to be that much of a disaster. And these people just don't understand this. So sad. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So the point, and thanks to TradingView, of course, they keep fucking up my charts here. But the point I'm trying to make here is we are clearly been told by the market, expect the shit to hit the fan. Something ugly is coming down the pike here at the end of the summer here. And then also too, I do find it a little bit scary. Let me ask you a question. Actually, this is a good opportunity for you on the YouTube page to interact with me. Do you think that the banking cartel is going to just simply roll over and say, oh, Donnie, or oh, Mr. Besant, we're going to just basically hand you our entire business model on a silver platter, and we're just going to disappear? Do you think that the banking cartel is going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Just give up and just hand this entire business of managing the hegemony? They're just going to hand this over to Donnie? Not a chance in hell. So, is it a possibility that we might have another Silicon Valley Bank scenario? Or Silvergate? Does anybody remember Silvergate? Is it possible? Is it possible that the banking cartel has already worked their way inside of Donnie's Liberty, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and could accidentally cause it to tip over on the advent of all this stable coin legislation? There is definitely a possibility there, Constantine. Donald Trump is a deal maker, isn't he? It does, especially with the way that he folded like a cheap fucking hooker, punched in the stomach by a fat man with spots on his face. Who remembers who said that line? You're a TV junkie if you know who said that line. Um, the way that he folded like a cheap fucking hooker on that whole Israeli thing, and you could even see it in his face when he was making his speech, and then he actually made reference to God. You could literally see him going, "Oh God, I really fucked up here. For please don't kill us all." Hey, interesting, Geo. And I don't think that actually Bitcoin suffers anything here. I think Bitcoin's probably going to go through its regular cycles. Keep in mind, there's absolutely nothing out of the ordinary with regard to this chart. Nothing at all. This is absolutely right on script. There's nothing out of the ordinary here at all. And what's really scary, and what I find with the people in this space, is, you guys are all absolutely in love with these computers. So let's just ask the computer, what is the cost to mine 1 Bitcoin? And what's fascinating is, I know people at TRI that are absolutely in love with this artificial intelligence shit. And they're like, oh my God, Brian, you have to be on board on this. Why aren't you getting on board? Why aren't you 100% all in? Well, okay. I mean, you see how these big conglomerates are all jumping on this AI thing. So I mean, there's the number right there, 10,200. So I don't necessarily agree or disagree with this number. It was interesting how we had a gentleman on the site last cycle and previous cycles who actually had a sort of cost of mining Bitcoin study that he built on TradingView. And he just completely vanished. I think as soon as the Mt. Gox coins got released, I think he got his coins back, and now he has absolutely no interest in dealing with the public at all. Anyway, that's my take on it, but who knows? But he wrote a script on that we used to actually have on the TradingView charts, which showed you the cost of Bitcoin, and you can see what this number is. Now, if this AI stuff is as good as it is Google lying to us right now then? So I agree with you. I think that Bitcoin, to be perfectly blunt, was actually created by the NSA, which to all intents and purposes means that Bitcoin is basically part of the cabal. Of course, that's the last thing in the world you people want to hear. I think Bitcoin did its job admirably. The George Bushes of the world, and really his son was just nothing more than a kind of a drone. But George Bush Sr. and all his cronies that came out of the Second World War and literally took over the Secret Service and all of those agencies. And then through the war on terror, they made it so these secret agencies basically had guaranteed funding that was beyond congressional control. I mean, fuck, what kind of dystopia are we living in here? But Bitcoin price could come down appreciably, and yet don't make any difference. So I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere. And I think Bitcoin will probably act as like, digital gold, that kind of conversation going forward. Hell, I mean, here's an outlandish thought. I would not be surprised if aliens would actually like the human species to sort of be incorporated into some sort of galactic community. But very first thing you have to do is you have to computerize the world, AKA the evolution of the internet. Then you have to create some sort of, Earth monetary unit so that anybody anywhere can interact with the system and, be basically a part of the system. Enter Bitcoin. There's an outlandish theory for you. So how high up does this go? I mean, do you believe in the Anunnaki? Do you believe in Nibiru? Do you believe that this human species was actually nothing more than a slave race to mine the gold for the Anunnaki? A lot of people that say yes. So look at this. Isn't this interesting? So people even now are even chiming in here. And do you understand, Igor, that you're actually, that's almost like a confirmation bias, what you've said there. Because frankly speaking, $98,000 to mine one Bitcoin, I don't believe that at all. But that's confirmation bias for all of you to justify coming in and buying Bitcoin up top here. Scary. So are you trying to tell me that anybody who goes to Google and types in what does it cost to mine a Bitcoin, they are 10x off your number? I don't know. I think there's something very suspicious there. Is that our Dutch Sene? God, I haven't seen you in a long time, sir. Actually, there's one of the guys that probably could buy and sell this entire everybody watching this show out with just what he has in his shitcoin wallet, if that is the Sene that I'm thinking of. Anyway, blah blah blah. Hope you enjoyed that. So, what I do find interesting is that when you do type in something like this, the negative feedback that I get from people, oh boy, it's over the top. I personally think, for whatever it's worth, I like the idea that maybe it costs like, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 G's to mine a Bitcoin. That wouldn't surprise me. And also, too, you can get a pretty good idea. This is a nice little hint for you to remember going forward. You can get a pretty good idea of where this thing wants to correct back to. Following, oh, that's not the one I want. Following the top, if all you do is you just take the top price and you knock off 80% from the peak. So you notice 85% correction. And let's see what this one did. Oh, 78% correction. So hopefully you get the idea. Does that mean that Bitcoin comes back down to the cost of production? I don't know. 80% correction. So hopefully you can see a theme here. So that means that the correction low, and I don't know where the top is. If we're really lucky and Liam gets his house and we rally up here to 250,000 Bitcoin, then that means I'm probably looking for price just to do nothing more than come back to this trend line and probably do nothing more than just revisit this historical horizontal support and resistance level. That would be my thinking going forward, but that does imply that we work our way quite a bit higher. If we top out at like 150 or thereabouts, then that means that 80% takes us all the way back down to 30,000. And actually, I kind of like that. A correction window between $30,000 and $50,000 of Bitcoin, that would make perfect sense for me. And I do like the idea that we're in an absolute calamity situation, economic turmoil. Where do people eventually give up? Well, the miners will give up if price actually consistently goes below the cost of production. Then people will just simply shut down their mining rigs and they just won't mine anymore. And I mean, anybody who's trying to still mine Bitcoin on a laptop, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, food for thought for you. Somebody at the beginning of this show wanted me to take a look at some of the crypto stocks. So maybe that's a good way to spend some time here. Question is, where do we want to do this? Maybe, you know what? Why don't we even do let's see if this will work. I don't know whether this will work or not. Create a new layout. Hey, there we go. Why don't we go crypto stocks? Actually, there is one that I did buy a bull call spread on. I kind of bought strikes a little bit out of the money though, so I don't know whether I'm a bit of a fool there or not. But this Beyond that is supposed to be the old Overstock. They bought the Overstock basically when it was in bankrupt. They bought the Beyond Bed Bath and Beyond, I think was the name brand that they bought. um, but I bought a bull call spread on this guy through this consolidation. So this guy actually really likes to rally when Bitcoin is rallying. So I feel pretty confident this guy's probably going to move higher here into the fall. There's some levels for reference. Interesting how we did. I don't know whether that's the lowest low there or not, though. Yeah, actually, it does look like it. All right. So did rally up to 2.618, oscillated around it. So odds are probably up to 4.669. And then if I'm really lucky, into the fall, we get a nice little blow off top, take out these highs from back last winter. And thinking probably like 38.2s off this entire range. Although we might find that this peak is actually the extent of the rally here this fall. And then we have to do some sort of horrific pullback. That really wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, something's going to happen this fall that's just going to fucking rock this market. I don't know what it is, but it just, you can feel it coming. So I wouldn't be surprised if a name like this does something along these lines going forward. That wouldn't surprise me. I was thinking that we'd get up against these trend lines, but I don't know. It looks to me like we're running out of time here. And, this might take a long time to resolve. You might find that this thing just sort of, I do like the idea that we work our way up against these highs. There's probably, you can see the back and forth in here. So we'll probably do some sort of back and forth in here. And then we get going, maybe after that, what did I say? September 2026. That's when that 1.618 window kicks in. And then through that to end of 2026, winter of 2027, that should be the bottom in crypto itself. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a name like this actually pivots somewhere there. So I think you got a bit of a rally here to come back into these peaks here over this next 4 or 5 months, right? If we zoom in on the shorter term frame, it should be a pretty nice rally. In fact, you can probably we'll just keep it simple. We'll go there to there, and then we'll go extensions. Boosh. So there's your parking garage. Yeah, that lines up nicely. 1.618. Yeah. So look at the top of the parking garage comes right into that wick right there nicely. There's also a bunch of trap bulls all up here that would love to get released. So somewhere between that 2.0 and that 877. I kind of like that as a target. Also, too, we could go A to B and then C to D if this is some sort of bot. Which means we should go Alt A, B, C, D targets. There we go. So 1.618. It also would be an Alt A, B, C, D. That would be like your no-brainer short trade location. So top of the parking garage, 877, previous peaks, wicks and tails like to be eaten, trapped bulls getting released, horizontal support and resistance. I like a push up into this level here this fall. And then, if we think, the world is nothing more than a fractal, then what should happen, and there's no time limit on this, is we should go down and seriously test this low in earnest. So if we did, let's say we topped out at the top of the parking garage and you looked for that correction, to test that low. And if this is an inverted head and shoulders, then this shoulder will hold. So if that's the case, then I would be thinking about trying to rebuy this thing in good old reload zones, like there. Interesting how 877, if the market pivots, well, actually, you know what? That's probably not the best. What I'll do is I'll go against the original low, and then we'll project that off of the anticipated peak somewhere up in this area. So reload zones, interesting, 886 actually lines up with that left shoulder perfectly. And notice there's some cheeky gaps down there that need filling. And so that sort of panic dump peak in 2026, wherever the hell it is. I remember SBF, he was like thrown in jail through that window. My hunch is that that correction window happens somewhere in there. So where is this? Actually, I think I would push this over to like somewhere in that area, something like that. And let me move that up a little higher. Oh, come on, you. There we go. Higher. And actually, a guy like David O, our inverted head and shoulders guru on the site, David and I have been working together. In fact, David had won the first raffle that I ever had at TRI for level 1 education program back in 2015. And now he's an absolute guru with, he loves head and shoulders and megaphones. And ironically enough, he would actually prefer that this inverted head and shoulders actually have an upward sloping neckline. And that makes sense too, right? Higher highs and higher lows defines a bull. And interesting how that lines up with that 200%. So I don't know, maybe we can work our way all the way up to no brainer alt A, B, C, D trade locations. Maybe we just top out at the top of the parking garage, but somewhere up in this area. I like that. And the key here for this next correction, if this is still a bull, is ironically enough, this is the most important level on this entire chart. Is after this correction, or after the bull is done, where do we correct to, and does this left shoulder level hold? So there's one chart for you. Next up on the right, and this is one that I'm long a bull call spread, so I'm looking for that move to make my money, and I think I'll make money there. I don't see any reason why not. I did see someone right at the very beginning. Noam asked me to look at Riot, RIOT. So let's see what we got here. Now it's called Riot Platforms. All right. Start with a higher time frame look. Let's see what we got here. You would think that that thing looks like it's getting ready to rock and roll, eh? So we have clearly broken down trend lines. That's a good sign. We got a sloppy bottom there. I mean, that's a little bit of a W. It's translated into that rally. It's not terrible. Nice rising volume too. Notice the volume on this move here was lower than the volume here. That's your warning sign. That's a volume divergence. Something's not right with the bull here. And sure enough, price had to come all the way back down. Looks like we broke out on volume over here. So volume's still pretty strong. That was in through here. And this to me, though, it kind of looks like a trading range, eh? So top end of the range, bottom end of the range. Actually, Chris, maybe we should make a note of this. What do you think I'm thinking here with relatively low volatility and it's sitting just about the middle of its range? If you've been watching any of those videos recently, you should.
Iron Condor?
Thank you. Ideally, you want to do those iron condors with this thing sort of sitting right at the middle of the range, and then go and do something like, right, maybe like, I don't know, $20 call. And we'll write $2 put. It's getting awfully low. I don't know whether that makes any sense or not. Hey, you probably need a much more pricey stock to do this. So you go and write that call, write that put, And actually, I even have, let's see if I can do this. Oh, maybe I can't. I thought crypto stocks. Oh yeah, okay, this should work. How do I do this? Maybe yeah, but that's gonna open that. I don't know. I have like an iron condor. You know what? Screw it. You want to learn about iron condors? Tune into me in the new year. But anyway, the point I would just simply say is this is middle of the range. So I don't know whether I'd be overly bullish or bearish here. Actually, a good way to sort of keep abreast of sort of what are limitations. I would say you could do things like Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands. Where's good old Johnny? There he is. I think this is his basic. So you can see range is pretty limited here. You know, at best, maybe $12. At worst, $6. Actually, I think what you'd want to do is I don't want to get into the iron condors, but I think you probably want to write these strikes and then buy these strikes. But anyway. So this to me, it just looks like it's a trading range. You know me, I'm going to just simply say I cannot really get overly bullish on this thing until we see W's on the other side of that trend line. Now, this might pull an AMD and it might just blast through that with tons of gaps and just keep heading straight up. And you know, as soon as the inertia is done, it'll come right back down and fill in all the gaps. And I can show you that just AMD. Yeah, there it is. Like, look at that gap right there. You can drive a truck through that. This is on a weekly price chart. So yes, we've broken down trend lines, but I do not have a lot of confidence in that. Once this thing sort of exhausts itself, you can see exactly where it has to come back down to. So we might do an AMD here. I don't think so. What I would just simply say is this thing, top end of the range, $20, bottom end of the range, $3.50, caveat emptor. You know, if you look at this on a log scale, this will really make you bug out. Oh, there you go. Well, it's not that big of a deal. So, I suppose you could make the argument off of this higher time frame trend line. If this W does come in here, that would probably get me thinking like, okay, well, we're trying to put in structure on other sides of like long-term trend lines. If we go like that, so you can see that. I don't know, on a log scale, I mean, what's scary about this is looks to me like they've already priced in the bull. I might argue, and I'll just change this back to regular, right? I might argue that, let's flip this around. Reverse. There we go. All right. Well, actually, from that perspective, I think shorting locations are way up here. Buying location, it's not a terrible place, especially if this is like in a registered account or something where you don't really have to do anything with it. You just hold on to it. It's not a bad place to come in, do your nanny nibbling and all that kind of fun stuff. But other than that, it just looks to me like this thing's in a trading range. And what do you think the odds are? This is probably like 38.2. You know, Adam, he's so good at pointing out those 38.2s. I absolutely love that about him. Oh, no, actually, wow. So it's not even close to that. How about 20? What is it? 26.4? Can never remember that one. What did I do here? It's a 0.264. Oh, it is. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Well, that's getting into that neighborhood. So do you want to just buy and hold? Not a bad place to go shopping. Is this thing got a whole bunch of momentum behind it and it's about to rock and roll and make you rich? I don't think so. Do we have a base there? Look at that. They even took these lows out just by a hair there. So somebody's not overly impressed with this thing. Yeah, look at that. They even took out those lows. So, yeah, I'm not excited here. I would say probably heading into the fall. Let's keep a real close eye on how she acts up in this reload zone. Boosh, right up there. That gap needs filling. These highs need testing. Look at all those trap bulls up there. They would love to get released. So somewhere up in this area, which isn't bad. I mean, it's $10 up to like $16. If you did get some sort of pullback here, but I don't think you will. But if you did, maybe you could sneak your way in on a reload zone of that range. But up in this area, hopefully, if you did buy some down here, just even if you looked at this range alone, where is the acceptable buying window? There it is. 78.6s, and actually this shouldn't surprise us. You know how much Brian loves his 78.6, so that's $7. So what a big surprise. You should be banging out doubles actually right on this this event here. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised. Half of the reason why this stalled out the way that it did was simply people did buy 78.6. As soon as they got up to $14 and change, let them have half, get that risk-free trade going. And actually, it kind of looks like they just did the same damn thing. Bring it right back down to that 78.6. And let's do it again. So, yeah, I could very easily see this trading range could actually produce doubles. Is this the type of market state that you're going to see these things go face rip into the peak and, crypto billionaires are made? I'm just not feeling it. And actually, one of the main reasons why I'm not feeling it right now is I'll do this. This image. It's hard for the public to understand this. I would imagine we're all students of the market. Hell, I could probably keep learning. And of course, they take this data away from us, and then they give us the data, then they take it away and stuff. So the 1% don't make this easy on anybody. But the bottom line here is that the cost of money, this particular 4-year cycle peak, the cost of money itself is much, much higher than the cost of money through previous cycle peaks. So, this, when they take interest rates down, they want to desperately stimulate the economy. The banksters and all that knew that basically the global economy was dead, and they do anything possible to stimulate growth. And mysteriously enough, this whole crypto industry just basically sprang up out of all that. One might argue too that the Chinese Fugazi, the con job, the bubble, whatever you want to call it, I think it got as out of control as it did. And same thing with China. What's scary about China is these cocksuckers just won't let prices correct. So their solution is just hyperinflate the economy. And people have to pay 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times the price for a loaf of bread. Fuck them. They're peasants. They're idiots. They're losers. As long as the banks and the oligarchs are happy and all these baby boomers who bought into the bubble, they don't see the house price itself going down, everything's perfectly fine, which is disgusting. It's a terrible way to run an economy. And of course, it's the classic bankster fucking crook model. But anyway, the point being that, this is where SBFs came to life. This is where Do Kwons came to life. Big Connects, right? Because the cost of money was nothing. You could go and borrow $1 million and the interest on it was like peanuts. We're not in that kind of environment anymore, folks. You can't just go borrow $1 million and it's not going to cost you anything to go throw and dump it into some silly crypto shill. And so this is half the reason why I think that the crypto market just isn't doing anything this particular cycle. Having said that, and this is sort of my bent right now, and if anything, this fits into these cycles perfectly. We're not in a commodity cycle anymore. We are in a paper asset cycle. So that means that things like the Dow can actually dramatically outperform. I don't know whether you've seen my commentary on junior and small cap stocks. I think they can really outperform. So I'm a stock bull right now, but I'm not necessarily a crypto bull, and I'm not necessarily a a Bitcoin mining bull. I think that space has actually kind of been built out. Trying to find where I have my little Russell 2000 write up. Somewhere in all this. There it is. Look at this Russell 2000. What a pretty bottom. So that's exactly the same story as the Dow. It's identical. It's just this is the small cap market. And the Dow is the big Dow Industrials 30s and all that. So this is where I would be placing my bets long in this market. I don't know whether I necessarily believe that. I might make the argument that if you did buy the Riot and you got yourself a double there, well, okay, everything's fine. You're sitting on risk-free trades and you just let it work. Oh, where the hell did that damn chart go? Right, there it is, right? So, yeah, could you come in here at the bottom end of the range and bang out a double on a test of the top end of the range? Sure, why not? I wouldn't hold it against you. And the irony of it all is if you can do more than 30% annualized rate of return on your money consistently and compound that, you've beaten more than 90% of all investors ever. So was there a 30% return on coming in here and just buying that reload zone? Well, even now at $10, 30% on $7, 10% 70 cents, 30%'s got to be $2. So $9.20, if you can get better than $9.20 on this stock, you've beaten and booked the profit, you've beaten more than 90% of all investors ever. So have you really got anything to be complaining about here? I don't think so. Are you going to see Riot go to, these kind of peaks where the cost of money was absolutely nothing? I don't think so. Not this cycle. So there's my 2 cents with regard to Riot. And also, too, you should look at this market. You should look at this asset and say, well, we're coming to within 6 months of the Bitcoin peak, and it's still sort of floundering around at the bottom end of its range. Something's not right about this. I could very easily see that we're in this kind of environment. This could very possibly be the case, and we do something like this, but I think it's only predicated on if the Fed goes, oh my God, look at this crisis. It's the end of the world. Interest rates go to zero. We will sacrifice our lives to save capitalism. And that would be sort of the environment to get that kind of move. But I don't really hear that right now. What I hear out of the Fed is the Fed now is playing politics. And the Fed is literally, of course, they're running the Rothschild script, if you will. They've already diluted the shit out of the money supply. I think they've basically pulled off their great reset, but unfortunately, I think there's one more wave of this hyperinflation ahead of us. Does that have to wait till the end and next cycle on Bitcoin? It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. Next cycle peak, of course, will be in 2030. And that should all be around what does the world look like after 2028. And does Donnie instill himself as some totalitarian dictatorship? Keep in mind the soothsayers, the tea leaf readers, all said that Donnie was supposed to be the last U.S. president of the United States. So maybe the writing's on the wall. He turns the United States into some sort of fascist dictatorship. It'd be such a shame. But it wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, there's my commentary on Riot. Hope you enjoyed that. Maybe what time is it? It's 1 o'clock. I'll do one more. Maybe Coinbase. Everybody loves Coinbase. See what it looks like. Coin. Part of the cabal. Actually, it's interesting that this thing's acting the way that it is. When it IPO'd here, really good lesson that these IPOs, usually they bring them out about twice what they're actually worth. So it's interesting how they brought this thing out at like $300-400. It had to go all the way down to $37. Ay caramba. And then we were talking recently, wasn't there another one that just IPO'd that was one of these darlings? So we should keep an eye on it and what it IPO'd at. I was really surprised. I wanted to move some money down to the States, and the bank actually said, well, the way they do it down in the States is they use PayPal. And I was like, banks use
The
PayPal?
stock is Circle.
Circle's the new IPO, eh? Oh, okay. Anyway, with regard to this kind of actually looks like an inverted head and shoulders. The only issue here, though, is we definitely went through this shoulder low. So I don't know whether we can actually interpret that as a head and shoulders or not. It is interesting. Oh, but this is an interesting tell. Look how the volume and price, look how price broke out to new highs here. But notice volume is not making new highs here. That's got to be a bit of a warning sign to all of you. Yeah, it's kind of a messy chart. It would be, and I guess we don't need the Bollinger Bands on here. So yeah, I would have thought that we could go boom, 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 boom. But the problem is this right shoulder, that's much, much lower than the left shoulder. So I don't know about that. I'm skeptical. Also, it'd be interesting too to see if there was divergence on this move to new lows here. Yeah, we don't have enough data. Boo. Oh, darn. Okay. Daily price chart. Do we get anything out of this? See, this correct. Notice how like we did pull back down into here and had this low held and we consolidated and then worked higher, then I think this inverted head and shoulders would have been legit. But I don't think it's legit with this breakdown here. Does lead me to believe that maybe there's a littler one. That's awfully close, eh? We didn't really lose that level in earnest. So maybe this is inverted head and shoulders here. It's downward sloping, and as I said earlier, David doesn't like a downward sloping inverted head and shoulders, but maybe something like that. But that does imply our target here should be the 1.618. So that would be there to there. And extensions. And boom, 1.618. Uh-oh. We're at the target. Well, that's not so good. And I suppose we could probably also just simply draw some nice, simple connect the dots lines. So that's got a little bit further to go. I like a move up into that parking garage top there. Considering that this is August, there's September, there's October where the peak is. That kind of looks a little overdone. What's scary about this is this kind of looks like a hinge, or excuse me, a megaphone. So there, because that's a lower low, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So what this means is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So be careful here, people. If anything, this aligns nicely with those cycle pivots. So we said that September, October was that 1318. And then we said September 2026. Wow, that's way over here, eh? Over there is the 1.618. So actually, that's what that looks like. Oh boy. So that's what I'm kind of seeing on that Coinbase. Then lastly, what was that Circle, right? Circle. What's a Circle Internet Group? It's going to be pretty hard to discern a top or any sort of technical pattern here just in the short term. I would say that when you start seeing these high to low trend lines being broken, that's probably a sign that the bull is done. So we still got a little bit of wiggle room here. Interesting though, we can go A to B and C to D. That guy's going to come down, fill in his gaps, play against these lows. Oh, nasty outside downside bearish engulfing bar. Not quite a key reversal, but a pretty nasty price action regardless. So can't really comment too much about that. All right. Well, it was an interesting way for us to spend this Sunday looking at different crypto stocks. There's 4 different ones for you to think about. Unfortunately, none of them, not a single one of these, are in a buy location right now for me. Yeah, this guy's probably the closest one, that Riot, if it can come back down. Interesting, beautiful bullish engulfing bar right there. So if you could get a reload zone pullback on this Riot, this one probably is the best. Actually, ooh, that's not an engulfing bar. I take that back. It's just an up bar. Yeah, maybe like reload zone pullbacks down into that tail right there. That's probably an interesting buying location, but nah, there's nothing really to get excited about there for me. And definitely can't touch that. If anything, that almost looks like a take profit sell level. And the coin, this is the beyond. Yeah, probably needs to come back down, fill in these gaps if it does start puking out here. But it was good to see that we took out that high there. So that was good. So, yeah, I'm just not seeing it on these things. Probably actually a lot like the Bitcoin story itself. I mean, I really don't like going in and buying Bitcoins here. I think you're kind of asking for trouble. Last thought, just before I turn over to the questions, some of the names that I've been buying recently, Nanny Nibbles. I have one more salvo in my Kraken account. And I already have a bid working for that money. So we'll see whether I got filled there. But recent names I bought, picked up a little of this OMG down at the bottom end of his range here. Hopefully everybody looks at that and goes, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. That's the kind of trade Brian would do. If this thing actually goes in W's here, then we know we're off to the races. Nothing really to do there just yet. Bought some of this piece of crap. And one of the site members laughed at me. Brian, you do realize you're buying into a dead name. Don't. But interesting, if we do nothing more than just eat these wicks into some sort of cycle orgy peak this fall, then I will get my double. And of course, if this thing actually does perform, but I don't think it will. But if we do perform, maybe even come up and eat this wick up here, then of course I knock the cover off the ball. But between me, you, and the fence post, I'm not looking too good here right now. And the Matador was correct in his chastising me for buying crypto stories that kind of are yesterday's story. They're kind of dead. This is little old lady wrist model. So I'm not too concerned about market timing, and I'm not really too concerned if this goes off the board. You can see how many different names the little old lady is invested in. So if half of these names go off the board, but the other half double, then I'm perfectly happy with that. I picked up a little bit of this C pool recently. That one's looking half decent. Got a little bit of an actual W there. So that one's looking relatively attractive. And not the prettiest of W's, right? That's you got a D in English for your W there, Brian. And then threw in, let's see, I also bought a little bit of that Baba. I had a stink bid in on that thing, so I picked up a little bit more of that. Will I live to regret it? Who knows? Only time will tell. What the hell's the damn Baba on here? Baba, is that it there? Yeah. So anyway, you can see 78.6 got Brian written all over it. So what a surprise. Brian got filled right here. So I picked up a little bit more of that guy, and then I threw in a stink bid to try. I might miss it though. I want to get basically in at the 78.6. I think I put the order in like a couple days ago. And now the silly W has gone and confirmed here. So don't be shocked if this thing takes off here. But that's a pretty good looking trade. I am working a stink bid, so I'm kind of hoping maybe we can get like a little bit of softness through the July 4th holiday weekend. See if I can sneak my way in there. So I even told you a few names that I'm buying. All right. Chris says that there's a couple of questions on the AMA document. So we'll circle back around, look at that. Just FYI, don't think I'm going to really comment on me leaving TRI. If you do have questions about that, please feel free to PM me. But I don't want to just sit here and talk in an open forum about this. This stuff should all just be internal on the site. So, as I said earlier, Saturn went into Gemini. I don't know what the expression is. Lots of change going on in the universe right now, and Brian's life is going to be like that. Lots and lots of change coming. All right. Let's scroll down here. Let's see what we got here. Hi, Brian. I often hear you mention Collins Pump Chaser Zone during your show. Could you please explain what it is and how TRI uses it in practice with a few examples? Well, do you want a free course on how to trade? FYI, one of the things that will be changing dramatically in my life is if you do want to get actual training and coaching with Brian going forward, it is going to cost you. No more giving this shit away for free. I might do things like illustrations and stuff on these free shows, but I'm certainly not going to sit here and go, all right, well, here's one of 5 examples to show you of this. This is how you do this. This is where you take the trade. This is where you do that. I'm not going to do that. No, sorry, that ain't going to happen. Simple premise is, of course, assuming that you are a level 1 student, because you are writing questions in here, then you already know what the top of Collins Pump Chaser Zone is. It's the Ray Burchett first stop target. So what I will just simply say is Colin, and this was Colin's choice, and maybe what you need to do is go find Colin on whatever platform he works off of, because recently he was shilling an idea that was quote unquote guaranteed floor in price. I got very upset at him for mentioning guarantees in the crypto space because it does not exist, aka Do Kwon, aka SBF. These kids are smart and they have very high IQs, but they're stupid when it comes to making references about what is guaranteed in this world. And I would say the name that Colin is pumping is falling into exactly the same trap. So not allowed to use the word guarantee and venture capital in the same sentence. So, because of that, I think Colin now has decided he does not want to interact with me anymore, but I'm not going to change who I am. So, if you or anyone you know comes on whatever site or whatever platform I'm working on and starts talking about guarantees in the speculative space, especially given where we are in this cycle and what's coming ahead of us, you're going to get a earful from me. So, unfortunately, if Collins decided that his time working with me is over because he didn't like my adamant criticism about using the word guarantee in this space, well, then that's what it has to be. Um, so, I think Colin works on a site called the Hero Exchange. I'm not exactly sure. Uh, Nice guy, don't get me wrong. He's a fellow Canadian, very sweet, very polite, very agreeable. You all know what the problem I had. Um, I think he goes by the name of Random Task on social media. So if you want to search for that, you can ask him. The simple premise is his pump chaser zone is nothing more than first stop target to Gann's 50% rule. And I often show you it. In fact, I even showed you it on this particular chart. I didn't label it pump chaser zone. And I get the impression maybe I should just stop using that expression. I always in the past like to make TRI people famous and really promote them and make them feel good about the good work that they're doing. And I've noticed that every time I've done that, it's ended up blowing up in my face. So I think I'm probably not going to make that pump chaser zone reference anymore. And I'm just going to say simply 38.2 to 50% retracement. This is, you see this on all the charts I produce, and you see how the market came down, tested 38.2, tested the 13 EMA, and actually got out of there. Because we actually have not traded back down to the 38.2, this actually worries me because I don't think that the natural correction off of this rally peak has actually even happened yet. We are still in this initial move. And what that might imply is actually this is some sort of head and shoulders. And then we ultimately do resolve that 38.2, but it's to the downside. That's very possible. So there is an illustration of your pump chaser zone, which we will call the Brian chaser zone, I guess. And really just refer to your course one lecture material on fibs. I don't know whether the level one program has gotten to fibs tutorial yet, but it's basically the 38.2 first stop target to the 50% rule. And you even see here, I had a note, hey, this is a buying zone. So I think that's probably what I'm just going to leave it at is 38.2 to 50%. There's a perfectly good draw up illustration of that. And I'm just not going to use the term. In fact, we should probably even just get rid of it completely out of my vocabulary. Thank you. I will officially, we'll say even here, thank you for the prompt. I will officially remove that expression from my vocabulary. Vocabulary? I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe it's, anyway, you get the idea. All right, so I hope that gives you a, we'll just say 38.2 first stop target to 50% Gann rule retracement. And we'll say, see example below. Let's make this. What time is it? Oh, I got 9 minutes to get out of here. And actually, the recording's going to stop soon too, isn't it? Yellow? Maybe that's the best one to use. There you go. And we will put in a big yellow marker. There you go. Oh, nope, that wasn't it. Where'd it go? Over here. Boosh. All right, number two. Hey there, Brian. You mentioned in a recent daily brief about learning the time-based fib in relation to Bitcoin, I think. Could you go through it on a daily brief, if possible? Many thanks. All right, so I did that earlier. So all of you, what I would just simply say is see if you can replicate this chart. Pretty straightforward. Let's get rid of that. Just say, where was that? Watch today's rant on fib-based cycles, and replicate this. Boosh. There you go. All right, so it is 22 minutes past the hour. Looks like I made it on time. Any last questions over here I can quickly answer? DDBB says daily W's on Hyper Zero BEL. Probably nothing. Hi from Castaic Lake in Southern California. Castaic Lake? Hello, Omar. Whoop whoop, I am actually watching live. Oh, way to go. Kevin deleted a whole bunch of messages. Hello, Brian and TRI. Just having a lot on our plates. Just keep us in your prayers. Thank you, TRI. All right. Jim and Liz. Not a waste of time, Brian. Did level 1 Q1 this year. Learned so much. Want to do level 2. Oh, good. Good for you. Actually, yeah, I would suggest, Jason, you do that. Because things are going to be changing around TRI. So probably get that done this fall. Yeah, that would be my suggestion to you. Starting to think Trump is in on it. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. One of these guys that vanishes for a while, but I have good reasons. Oh, all right. I think you got the average cost of production cost over 7.7 years. All right. Thanks, son. Love to see 250K, but I will be on the edge from 150.44 forward. Yeah, probably. I think you're right. Sharpening gaming. Can you look at that? Sharpening gaming. Omar, you're around, so maybe Sharp Link Gaming, ITS, supposedly to be the ETH proxy. All right, cool. Can you please look at it? Thanks, Brian. What is the Sharp Link Gaming? Is that a stock? Probably put it on our little crypto list. How much time? I got 5 minutes left, so actually I'm okay. But then I got to get the hell out of here. And if we hear the recording has stopped, well, then I'm officially done. Guess that one. So Sharp Link Gaming. That's it there. NASDAQ, SBET. Oh boy. Yeah. Is this the right name? Omar, better answer quick. Right Much love, TRI. Don't forget Fartcoin. Fartcoin's too expensive, man. I want to buy it, but it's too fucking expensive. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. I'm almost afraid to see what the fundamentals are. What was the symbol? SBET. This should be funny. Where is it? Over here. It might not even be. I think it should be. Let's see. SBET. All right, we got a grand total of 62 million out. That's not terrible. Insiders own absolutely nothing here, though. That's suspicious. Not making any money. No indications of whether they're going to make money in the future. Considering what we've got coming up here after this fall, this has got trouble written all over it. I got a grand total of 2 cents a share in cash on the books. So, and they've got how many employees? 5. So 2 cents a share, 62 million. So that would be 600,000. So I guess they got about $1.2 million in cash. Book value is $3.62. So I guess they're sitting on some assets. They don't have any debt, so that's always a good sign. But they're not earning any money. So I suppose if they ever get around to announcing that they earned some money, you might see this thing do well. No, it wouldn't be something I'd be interested in. Sorry. And the chart, I mean, if you're a nanny nibbler, little old lady, or you want to go and grab some just so you have some on the books, okay, fine. But I don't think I would be thinking about a trade here. It's just, like I said, you want to nanny nibble this? All right, fine. But unfortunately, with stocks, if they just never earn any money, they might just dilute this thing right into the ground. And they've already rolled it back here. Look at that, a 12-for-1 rollback. So at this point, there was just a shit ton of stock out. So they rolled it back, had the pump, and now all the public comes in, chases up top, and they're all trapped now. So, yeah, again, this wouldn't be something I'd be interested in. I'm sorry. Okay, cool, great. What happens if ETH goes down? Then they're trapped like everybody else. All right, that's basically the top of the hour. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed the offering. Please understand that we're coming into the end of this cycle. This is not the beginning of the cycle. You better be damn careful. Yeah, there's probably some money to be made on flipping these things. But for God's sakes, don't fall in love with them. And then once we're outside the other end of this year, understand I will be gone. I will be selling. I will be taking profits. Probably the odds are, though, that the market probably stays relatively firm for a little while going forward. I'm not predicting the future. Honestly, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. But based on these cycles and how long I've been playing this game, I'm more than happy to slowly slide out of this market here this fall. And I'm just going to probably go pretty quiet. Probably going to be doing a lot of option spread trading going forward and futures trading. I want to get back with my old prop firm. So, all right, let's leave it at that. And by the way, if you're a student of the market, for God's sakes, follow this Twitter feed. This feed is absolute gold. You learn something new every day. Huge concept
Recording
that
stopped.
I teach. Can you learn how to do this? Just follow the feed. And I mean, you tell me, was that a correct signal? Chung, 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 chung. Up she goes. All right. Have yourselves a great day. All the best. Wish us luck on the road with Liam. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate that. All the best and bye for now.